There we go. Ah, shut up. Okay, so we are recording this session, and it will be posted to our Zoom links file folder in Blackboard when we're done. So if you missed the class for whatever reason and you've let me know about that, you can go back through the recording session. And also, sometimes it helps students. What the hell did he say about this last night? What the hell's going on? You can go back to that recorded session and take a look at it. Let's see. Is there anybody else I might not know of here? No, I think I got everybody accounted for. I think. Oh, I see somebody. There we go. Got it. Is Mr. Diaz here? Mr. Thomas, I see him now. Thank you.
Here.
All right, I got you, Thomas. How about Mr. Fitz? Roderick Fitz, are you here? Okay. All right. All right. Sorry for doing that. You know, this class is an advanced MBA class, and it's really I don't like to do this undergraduate nonsense about taking roll and all that stuff. So I apologize. It makes me feel uncomfortable for at this level of study, but it's something that I do just to make sure that I get engaged with you. So tonight we're going to introduce the course. These first 2 weeks of our 6:30 class. Oh, by the way, again, my name is Rick Hassey. I have been a faculty member at the University of La Verne for over 30 years. Many of that time as an adjunct faculty member, but in the last 4 years as a full-time faculty member after I decided to retire. Yes, I am an old gangster. So after I retired, the university asked me, hey, why don't you come on full-time? And that's what I've been doing. I teach accounting and finance, undergraduate and graduate at the university. For many years, I owned my own business, an investment banking company, and I did that for 30 years. And so I know a little bit about the finance. I better know a little bit about finance. And about 4 years ago, I sold my business to my employees, and they bought the company from me. And now they're doing a hell of a lot better job than I ever did running the company. So that's kind of a nice thing. There's Mr. Fitz. Welcome, Mr. Fitz. You're late, damn it. What's going on here?
Uh,
I'm teasing you. Don't worry. You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that.
well, just,
You don't.
just so you know that I have food poisoning this week, so I'm
Where'd you get it? Where'd you get food poisoning? You didn't go to the dining hall at La Verne, did you?
no, I drove my
All right.
girlfriend to San Francisco and I had some pretty spicy sushi and no, ramen, and I think it did me in. So
Didn't sit very well, huh?
yeah.
Well, food poisoning is bad. So I hope you're feeling better, Roderick. Thank you for being here. If all of a sudden you start turning white and getting funny looking, you can please excuse yourself and take care of whatever you have to do. So thank you for being here, Roderick. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So I was an investment banker for many years, and then I sold my business. And the nice thing about that is my former employees send me a check every month as payment on the business. And that keeps me playing golf and goofing around and causing all kinds of trouble. And I am speaking to you live and in color without makeup from my office here in Claremont, California, just a couple of miles down from the University of La Verne campus. And I know all of you are probably not from this area. A lot of you are members of our San Fernando Valley or Burbank campus, and a lot of you are members of our Irvine or Orange County campus. So you probably don't get up to this neck of the woods. I wish we were teaching this course down in Irvine or over in Burbank, but we cannot, and so we have to make the best of it this semester. So again, as I was saying, this class, the first 2 weeks of our class here in 6:30 is kind of getting ourselves back up to speed into the world of finance. I know some of you, maybe it's been a while since you've taken any finance classes. Maybe some of you took the finance class last term, but it's been, for most of you, I think it's probably been a while. So we're going to go over a couple of key points of finance these first 2 weeks. And then once we get out of that, then we're going to start talking about strategic decision making. All of you are in this MBA program, I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, to probably make more money in your lifetime, to provide yourself with the ability to market yourself and be prepared to be a leader either as an entrepreneur and starting your own business, or as a company leader in a business maybe that you're already in, or thinking about joining, or down the road changing careers. But MBA study is to prepare you for strategic decision making. And that's why you're here. And that's my job, is to make you and prepare you to think like a manager, a supervisor. Some of you are already supervisors, but to prepare you to make decision making involving the definition of corporate finance, maximizing the value of the company. People are not going to lend you money. Investors aren't going to buy your stock. Hedge funds or venture capitalists are not going to invest in your private business unless you show some expertise in financial management. You can be the best marketer in the world. You can know all the ins and outs of supply chain management. You can know everything has to do with distribution of your product. But if you can't raise money and you can't manage the assets of your company, chapter 11, here we come. You're not going to make it. So that's the key part of this class, is to prepare you to think, to lead, to manage. One of the things I started out my career, and I'm not going to tell you when because I'm probably older than most of you. I was probably out in the workforce when some of you weren't even born yet. But I started my career as a CPA, as an accountant. And I went to work for a company called JP Morgan in New York City. I was there a couple of years and hated accounting. I was good at it, but I hated it. So I switched over to the finance department, the investment banking side of JP Morgan, and began my real career then. But I remember sitting in meetings with my bosses and supervisors. And have you ever sat in a meeting with somebody who's your boss or your supervisor or your manager, and they have no clue what the hell they're talking about? They have no idea what you're there for. They have no idea about the strategic design of your team or your division or your department. And you wonder, what the hell? Who are these people? How can they make decisions? They don't even know what the hell I do. And I work for them. You don't want to be that way. You want to be informed. You might be in the marketing department, but to know about how capital is raised within your company is important as a marketing leader. You might be in the product distribution department or the supply chain department or the HR department or the IT department. If you don't have any idea how capital is obtained and managed in your company, you're not a good manager of that department. And that's why this fits into your career. A lot of us are not numbers people. We don't like numbers. Remember those days of accounting and debits and credits? Brr. Remember those days of statistics and mean, median, and average and standard deviation? Brr. Remember those days of capital budget forecasting and finance and net present value? Ugh. Now, for me, I get all excited about that stuff because I'm a little strange. A lot of us don't like that sort of thing. So we choose careers where it goes in different direction as far as leadership, sales, marketing, HR, IT, supply chain. But if you're going to be a manager and a leader in those areas, you need to know about this stuff. Where does the capital come from? What part of your department or division plays in the financial management of your company? If you're going to be an entrepreneur and start your own business, you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. And one of the most important hat is raising capital. So that's where this fits into your MBA program. It provides you with the skills to think, the skills to lead in the financial management of a company. And we're going to be applying these skills and these rules and these disciplines to some real world situations. That's why we have case studies. That's why this week you're putting together a stock portfolio. I'm sure a lot of you, when you saw that in my introduction video this week and said, wait a minute, this is not an investment class. What the hell's he got me doing a stock portfolio for? Well, two reasons. Number one, stock and equity financing is the key sources of money for a lot of businesses, and it's good to know what those all are about. But more importantly, we're going to use some of the companies you select in your portfolios as doing financial analysis, seeing how those companies make these types of decisions. We're going to be applying real world dynamics to the companies you select in your portfolios. How does Tesla continue to have a $600 stock price when they have made no money? How does that work? How in the hell is Amazon priced at $5,000 a share or whatever it's at these days? What goes on there? Because one of the key things about financial management is you have to manage the internal resources of your own particular company in relationship to the markets and the industry and the world around you. And if you don't know where you stand in those worlds around you, you ain't going to succeed. And we're going to try to tackle that. One of the vehicles of doing that is our stock portfolio. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. So tonight tonight and next week I'm going to be going over basics. Some of you might be bored by some of this, but some of you might go, "Oh, now I know what the hell he's talking about by this stuff." We're going to talk about the time value of money. Why do we invest in assets? To get a return on the investment. And how that return on investment is priced in relation to present value versus future value makes a key component of the decision making process. Why do you buy an automobile and borrow money to get it? Because it provides you transportation. It provides you access to a return. What's the return? I can go anywhere I want. Why do you purchase a home with a mortgage? And in these days in Southern California, that's a scary experience. But why do you do that? Because you want a nice place to live and raise your family, but more importantly, that hopefully that house, that asset will grow in value over time and provide you with a return on that investment over time. That's why banks lend you the mortgage money. That's why automobile companies and credit agencies lend you the money to buy a car. Because by your credit worthiness, they know you can pay it back, but also it's a return on their investment. They get interest, they get cash flow. And it's the exact same thing with corporations. You borrow money, you make profits, you sell stock. Those are the three key areas of corporate capital fundraising. You make money, you borrow money, you issue equity. And what do you get for that? You provide assets that provide products and services. And those product and services will generate a revenue stream and a cash flow stream to pay back those investors and entitle you to grow the corporation. That's financial management 101. We're going to learn the skills, the backroom motives of that process in this class. So the beginning process is understanding the time value of money, understanding what are the two main sources of capital for corporations: bonds and stocks. Most American corporations or most world corporations finance their operations by the issuing of public debt, bonds, not by banks. Banks provide them working capital. Banks provide equity lines so you can have cash in case you can't meet payroll. But big time money investment comes from the issuance of public bonds in the public markets. And big time money also comes from selling your equity to the public in the stock market. We're going to refresh our memories about those things. And then next week, we're going to talk about the risk and return and the dangers that possesses for corporations and investors. We've seen a lot of that in the last year and a half with the pandemic. What has happened? The future has been unsettled for many American companies and for world companies. Markets have been unsettled. Nobody's buying anything. No revenue coming in. People get laid off. Companies aren't borrowing money. But what has happened during this whole time? The stock market has gone up. What's up with that? Companies haven't been making that much money, but they've been maintaining their profit margins because they laid a lot of us off. And money in the marketplace has been cheap, so they've been able to maintain their profit margins. And also, and a lot of you probably are aware of this more than I am, companies are becoming more efficient with technology, with HR policies, with supply chain management. They're becoming more efficient. Perfect example. When I was in college and high school years ago, the big companies were J.C. Penney, Sears. The big companies were General Motors, United States Steel, manufacturing and old line retail operations. What are the big companies today? Technology companies, be it internet, cloud, hardware, or technology companies. I consider Tesla a technology company. They're a manufacturing company, but most automobile companies now are turning into technology companies. If you've been following the news this summer or this spring, why have we had a reduction in automobile production? Because 60 to 70% of an automobile is run by microchips. And there's been a short supply of those. That's a technology product. Amazon. Have you ever been to an Amazon store? Have you ever been to a store that, oh, come into the mall. Let's go. I'm going up to the mall and go to Amazon. Really? Huh? No. I'm on Amazon right now on my computer here while I'm teaching class. I'm not really. But that's a technology company. The world has changed. And here's the situation that you all are going to be involved in. You're going to be in this world in the future, managing companies with changing technologies and platforms. And I bet you a lot of you are going to work for a company in the future that has yet to be invented, has yet to be created, for a product in an industry that is in somebody's head or in somebody's R&D and is not even a business yet. You're going to work for that. Because in my lifetime, that has happened. When I was in my MBA studies, I used the slide rule for calculations. There were no computers. Really? Good Lord. When I went back to my apartment, my television had 5 channels, not 350. There was no fax machines. And can you believe this? There were no cell phones. Oh my God, how did we survive? But we did survive. But these products, these technologies, these efficiencies were developed, and our life and managing our lives and businesses has changed. And it's going to do the same again in your lifetime. In 25 years in California, there's going to be no gasoline-powered vehicles. That's a whole nother industry to itself. The world is changing, and you have to prepare yourself to manage in that world. Okay, that's my opening salvo. Pretty good, huh? You think I know what I'm talking about? Hell no. This is all smoke and mirrors. But let's continue on. First of all, I want to show you and get this out of the way. Oh, there, I'm bringing up the whole class. There we are. Oh, what a good looking group. A lot better looking than I am, I'll tell you that. Mr. Usher, turn on some lights there. I can't see you for Pete's sakes. What's going on there? I'm teasing. All right. One of the things you guys have to remember, if you've never heard or know about me, is I'm a very shy person. All right. I'm very shy. I'm very low profile, very low maintenance. And because of that, sometimes I don't get across and engage with my students. You guys buying this? So I'm gregarious, as they say in the field. And part of that is my entrepreneur background. Started my own company. You have to be kind of open. You can't be timid. And that trained me to be that way. But in this class, I encourage you all to get engaged. You have situations in your own career right now or your own company you work for that you feel could apply to some of our discussions. Please feel free to input. Send me an email. Shout right out in class. I want you engaged, just like we're sitting in a classroom in Burbank. Just like we're all sitting sipping on our Starbucks in our classroom in Irvine. I want you to get engaged. That's why the people who are hiding in the darkness of the internet, I'm going to call on you guys first because I can't see you. So be ready. But I want you to engage because why? You want to be a leader? Show me a leader who is timid. Show me a leader who kind of like, I don't really want to put my neck out about that. I'm going to just stay in the background. Really? Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But to be a leader, you got to stick your neck out. Excuse me, ladies, you got to put your ass on the line. And that's what we're going to prepare you for, to be able to feel comfortable doing that. Because to feel comfortable to be engaged in a leader, you got to know what's going on. You got to know where the capital is coming from your company. You got to know what the return on investment of your business is. You got to know how you're engaged with your consumers, with your clients, with your vendors. And if you're not engaged with those people, you're going to be like that example I used earlier. You'll be sitting in meetings and you'll have no idea what the hell's going on. And in the long term, that's not very good.
Professor, I have a quick question.
Yes.
At any point in this course, will we discuss cryptocurrency or how it's affecting the stock exchange?
Funny you've mentioned that because I've already had some questions from some students about, can I buy crypto in my portfolio? Well, I'm going to preface this by saying 2 years at this time, if you asked me that question, I'd say crypto is a bunch of bunk. It's a scam. It's a ripoff. All right. Now, I'm not saying that because why? You look at my E-Trade portfolio tonight, you'll see some money invested in cryptocurrency. All right. But as a form of learning for this class, Chris, is I'm not going into that. I'm not going to be talking much about that. If you have some questions and you want to discuss that, that's fine. But it's not part of our portfolio. I want to start off with just the basic equity investment type of portfolio of common stocks. I'm not getting into commodities. I'm not getting into euro currencies. I'm not getting anything else, just strictly that, because that leads into discussions that I want to do about our course in financial management. No, I am not going to talk about cryptocurrency. If you want to bring it up and want to talk about it, I consider myself fairly learned on the subject. I'm an investor in it. Matter of fact, I've lost my shorts in it the last couple of months, to be honest with you. Made some money last year, but so far this year, it's not doing so hot. But be that as it may, and let's not get into specifics, this is not an investment class. This is a financial management class, a corporate financial management class. So no, I will not be talking about crypto, but if you want to have a discussion about it, I don't have a problem with that. Fair enough?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Where was I? Okay, let me go. By the way, my lectures on Wednesday nights are going to be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. Depends on the subject matter, depends on this. And so I'll be quick. If any of you want to take a break, I can take a break, but I tend to just yak and get out of here quickly. We are in the midst of the Stanley Cup playoffs now, so that's a high priority with me now. So I got to make sure I get out of here so I can see the end of the hockey game. But besides that, that's the usual way of doing things. I'll be here, but some weeks I might go a full 3 hours and really put you guys to sleep. It depends on our subject matter, depends on the feedback I get from you all. But we'll just attack it that way. But my usual modus operandi is I introduce the class, I talk about the week's assignment, I go over our key topics and lecture points. See, I'm assuming a few things here from you all. And this is where you have to get engaged with me. This is why we have the professor meetings in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to meet with each and one of you directly for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to post a schedule at the end of this week in Blackboard where you'll select a day and time where you'll meet me via Zoom. And the reason for that is I want to make sure that you're cool with this class, you're cool with the technology, you understand the Blackboard setup, you understand the calendar and the schedule, and you don't have any questions or concerns right off the bat. Because in this environment, if we are in a classroom in Burbank, I could look at your body language and know that you have no clue what the hell's going on. I could look at your eyes and say, they're not interested. It's a little bit difficult to do this via Zoomathon. So I'm going to meet with you. I encourage you to keep engaged with me. If you're falling behind or you say, Mr. Hasse, what this is all about? Where are you going with this? So we're going to meet the first couple weeks of our class individually for a couple of minutes. And by the way, you have to meet with me because this is part of your class participation grade. So you're going to set an appointment over the next couple of weeks and we're going to sit down and chat a little bit. That's important for me. And I think you might think it's kind of corny, but I think it's important for the class to get you involved. It's important. Well, speaking of assessments and that sort of thing, let's take a look at our Blackboard site. I hope you've had some time to look at it. Some of you have not, so please be sure this week to get up to speed on what our Blackboard site is. There's a lot of data and information there. There's a lot of feedback there. First thing you see on the front page, the report card section. You're doing a discussion post that's going to be due next Tuesday. My philosophy in teaching is to get the grades posted within 48 hours of your due date of the assignment. So that means by next Thursday, you'll have the grade for that work in the discussion post. I'm not one of these knucklehead professors who wait 8 weeks before they tell you what the hell you're doing in the class. You'll know all the time where you stand in our class because this is important. This is an MBA class. You have to have a 3.0 average. If you're not doing well, you need to know about that and try to fix it. So make sure you always see and keep track of your cumulative average as we go forward in this class. This class is designed for the professional student, for the MBA graduate study. It's not for me to hold your hand and burp you and change your diapers and say, no, it's okay. You're late with your assignment. You can have another couple of days. Assignments are due when they're due. Papers are due when they're due. Professionalism in the presentation of your work is a key. No grammar problems, no misspellings. I don't want to see spreadsheets copied to a PDF. I want to see the spreadsheet, not the PDF. I want to see your calculations. Because why? You're preparing yourself for jobs in the 6-figure salary range. Companies are not going to hire somebody who can't put together a presentation in a PowerPoint. Companies are not going to hire somebody who doesn't know how to use a spreadsheet. Companies are not going to hire somebody if they can't write a sentence. I'm going to help you, if you can't do that, to do that in this class. Because companies are going to demand that. They're not going to pay you $150,000 a year to be able to use a word processor and depend on spell check. They want you to create, to present, to communicate. I can't tell you how many disasters I have seen in my career of people who think they're smart and know what's going on, who can't communicate a damn thing. Nobody knows, they don't know how to speak. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to communicate. End of your career, or your career is only going to go so far. That's important. So I'm going to demand that from you. I'm going to demand professionalism. I'm going to demand you be on time with your assignments, because that's the real world. Good Lord. Any of you ever been late for an assignment at work? I don't think you're going to get a pay raise. Any of you been constantly late at work or doing things incorrectly? You're not going to last very long. And if that company lets you get away with that, I'm not going to invest in that company. I'll tell you that right now. Our course syllabus information is right here. If you want a quick look at what our calendar is, just click on this file folder and boom. Oh my, I got a discussion post due next Tuesday. I guess I better start thinking about that. Oh, next week's our professor meetings. Okay. Oh, and then we have a case study, our first case study due June 29th. Okay, cool. I'm off and running. Always know where you stand. You can get away with, Professor Hassey, I just wasn't really aware of that we had to do that when you're a senior in college. But as a graduate student, you ain't going to get away with that. That ain't going to work here. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. BS. It's right here. So be aware of that. I'm really a nice guy, so don't worry. I'm not a meanie. I am kind of weird. Here's my bio picture. Look at this guy. I look like I'm going to rob a bank in my Masters golf hat. Okay. Whenever I send you an email, and this is something that we have a problem with these days in our society, people sometimes get so much social media and email, they miss the important things. So if you miss an email that I sent you, you can go to the announcement area of our Blackboard, and there's all the emails I have sent you to that point in time. I just sent you one last weekend with our introduction video. Every week we have an introduction video that I send you on the Monday prior to our class week. Our class week goes from Wednesday to Tuesday. I send you a little introduction video every week just to get you aware of what's going on, what to be prepared for. I send you our agenda for the week, just so you know what's going on. Whenever I have a video lecture or a lecture or recording like I'm doing tonight of this course, I'll post it to the Zoom YouTube links file folder. Also, that is a link to a YouTube playlist that we have of our class. We have a playlist in YouTube for our course. The link is in our syllabus and in Blackboard. It's a good place to look at videos. Keep up to date with our subject matter. Here's the Zoom link, which you all did tonight for our lecture. And I have office hours on Thursday evenings, and here's the link for those office hours on Thursday evening. You don't have to come on Thursday evening. Thursday evening, I just turn on my Dell computer here in Claremont, and I have the baseball game or the hockey game next to me, and I'm watching a little bit of that, and I'm waiting for any of you to call in if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, I can concentrate on the Dodgers losing. Okay. So that's the infrastructure of our class. The class discussion forum is a key area. If you have questions of me, you can post it to this thread, questions and comments. Open it up, create a thread, and ask me what the hell is going on, Mr. Hassey, help me. And this is where our discussion post is. This is also in week 1, but it also links to here. And this is something you have to do for a grade this week. due Tuesday. It serves two purposes for me. It tells me that you're familiar with and know how to use Blackboard. And number two, it tells me that you can prepare a spreadsheet, relay information, upload information for me that I can review. So we're all working on the same page. If you have a difficult time with Blackboard, if you have a difficult time with spreadsheets, don't be shy. Ask me. I will help you. Okay? But it's very important for you to be able to upload and communicate information throughout these 10 weeks to me. And if it's difficult or you have some problems with that, you got to let me know.
Professor,
So-
quick question.
Yes.
For the spreadsheets, can we use any spreadsheet software?
Yes, you can use Excel. You can use Mac Numbers. You can use Google Sheets. But you just have to download it into a file and post the file to wherever area that you're supposed to be posting it to. I don't want to open up Google Sheets outside of this platform. I'm not going to do that because I have 125 students this summer and I don't want to go searching around the internet for files. Everything needs to be uploaded to Blackboard. But if you want to use Google Sheets and download it as an Excel file or whatever spreadsheet file, and then post that file, that is fine. I accept Mac numbers, I accept Excel. But do not put them or print them out as a PDF file. You'll get a 0 because a PDF file doesn't show me the calculations in the cells. That's a key part. So that's why I need the spreadsheets. Okay? Did I answer your question, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Don't call me sir. All right. So you're going to tell me a little about yourself. And the reason I'm not being nosy here, but I would appreciate if you do give me your social security number. That would be very handy for me. No, I'm teasing. But I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. If some of you say, Mr. Hasse, I'm doing this, I work at Disney, Mr. Hasse, I do this, I'm thinking about starting my own company. It gives me a little bit background where I can go with my lectures and my course information, knowing what our students are interested in and what they're doing. That helps me. And also this is posted so all your colleagues can see it. And it tells, it's kind of like being in a classroom, going around the room and saying, all right, tell us about yourself. That's important. The second area is I want to see your spreadsheet skills. At the close of the stock market this Friday, June 11th, I want you to invest $100,000 in the stock market, in the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ exchange. It can't be don't invest in a company that's traded in London. Don't invest in a company that's traded in Beijing. Invest in a company that's traded on the New York Stock Exchange. You can select one company for the whole 100,000, or you can select up to 5 companies for the 100,000. And then once you make this decision on Friday, you can't change. You're locked into those companies for the entire 10 weeks. And again, we're using this as a tool to analyze and look at real world applications of our discussions. That's why we're doing this. And also we're saying, well, who can pick and who can gauge what's going on in the market these days? All right. I don't think I would be buying Radio Shack stock these days. I don't even know if you can buy it anymore. But I would be taking a long look at companies that are maybe investing in solar energy, technology, growing fields, or old line companies like Apple, Cisco, Amazon, where they have a track record of success. So you make the choice. And don't tell me, Mr. Hasse, I've never done this before. Okay, now's the time to start doing it. Pick a stock. Maybe invest in your company. You like watching the Dodgers? Or you like wearing Nike shoes? Invest in those companies that own those teams or those products. That's how Warren Buffett started. He liked to drink Coca-Cola a lot, so he invested in the company. Now he owns 40% of the company. So pick companies that you're interested in, that you would like to get engaged, and you'd like to find something out about them. The New York Stock Exchange and the markets open at 6:30 Pacific time and close at 1 in the afternoon Pacific time. So at 1 o'clock, you can go in and get the closing prices of that day. But you don't have to go, you don't have to, oh, I guess I better get on the computer at 1 o'clock on Friday and get my stock prices. No, you can do that over the weekend. There's many areas that you can go and find these stock prices. Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, just type in the name of the company, it gives you the closing price. And we'll be talking about that as we move along. So let me show you my portfolio that I've selected for this term and explain to you a little bit about how I like it set up. So let me bring this up here. And for some reason, let me make sure. No, I didn't even load it. So hang on, I got to load it. Bear with me. Here we go. Okay. I gave you a sample of my portfolio in Blackboard, and it's a PDF file. I didn't give you an Excel file because I didn't want to show you how to do the calculations. I wanted to see if you could do those yourself. So don't give me a PDF file like I showed you. I want an Excel file. And here's my companies that I've selected for this term. And don't ask me why I selected these, because I've been losing my shorts in some of these stocks in the real world. But I just wanted to go ahead with these. I invested my $100,000 in $25,000 allotments in Apple, GameStop, oh God, Viva Systems, and Clean Harbors. Mainly technology type related stuff, health industry related stuff. That's Viva Systems. That's the health industry, health management. Clean Harbors is a sustainability environmental company. Apple is Apple. GameStop is the current cool thing to do these days. So notice how I set up my portfolio. The ticker symbol, which is the symbol representing it in the exchange. The exchange it was in. And notice here the date is March 26, which is not correct. Wait a minute, I uploaded the wrong file here. Let me get out of this. Hang on. Good God, Mr. Hesse. Get your acting gear here. Hang on. I uploaded the wrong file. It's still similar, but let me get the right file. The one that I gave you guys. Where did I put it? Here we go. Just a sec. Here we go. All righty. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas here. Okay. Same companies, just it's a little bit more familiar. This is what I posted to Blackboard. June 11th is our stock date. So this coming Friday, you want to get the closing price of your companies. And here's what I want you to do. You can allocate the 100,000 any way you want. All right. But here's a key. You find the stock price as of the close of the markets on June 11th, Friday, and then you divide that stock price into the amount of dollars you invested or allocated to that investment. And that drives what the number of shares you're going to purchase. So for example, if you take $25,000 and divide it by $338.80 and round to the nearest whole number, you get 74 shares. If you take 25,000 divided by $56.17 and round to the nearest whole number, you get 445 shares, and so on. That's what I want you to do. So that means this will be consistent. This will be your price, and this will be the formula to determine the amount of shares you purchase. So you end up with exactly a $100,000 investment. So what we do during the course of our semester or of our term, we'll pick certain dates to do a new valuation. we'll find the new prices of our stocks and multiply those prices times our original share buy to get the latest value of our portfolio. That's how we'll do it. Now, in the real world, you say, okay, E-Trade, here's $25,000, buy me some shares of Apple. Well, E-Trade will not buy you $25,000 of Apple. They'll buy you $25,000 less their commission of Apple. They'll take out their fees. They'll take out their charges. Since I don't want you guys to pay me a commission because this is all bogus money anyways, you're just taking the amount you're investing and dividing it by the stock price to get your shares allocated. But notice what I'm doing over here. I'm also keeping track of the market. And we'll see this in just a minute in my lecture. And I'm running a little bit behind tonight, and I apologize. The Dow Jones Industrial Index, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ index. These are the key equity indicators of the market. The Dow is the top 30 shares or 30 companies according to the Wall Street Journal. Speaking of the Wall Street Journal, not a bad newspaper to read or download and get digital. You want to be an entrepreneur? You want to be a leader, a manager? You got to know what's going on. Wall Street Journal is not a bad investment. As students at the University of Laverne, you get a real good deal on a subscription to Wall Street Journal. Like 20, 30 bucks. I pay $500 a year for the damn thing. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll hook you up. If not, don't worry about it. It's not a request of this class. I'm just saying it's a good source of data in the world. The S&P 500. Standard & Poor's is like the credit rating agency for a lot of American corporations, and they also have an index of 500 leading American corporations. And the NASDAQ exchange, the over-the-counter exchange, which is mainly for small and mid-sized corporations, but also Amazon and Apple are part of the NASDAQ exchange. And that's a listing of 2,500 stocks in that index. And it's, if you remember your statistics days, I know you would like to forget those days. Statistics, you learned about indexing. Indexing is a way of grouping values together into one representative number of those values. And that's the market indexes. And we'll be tracking those market indexes at the same time we're tracking our portfolio over the course of our summer. Now, wouldn't it be nice to know on June 11th what the stock prices will be in 9 weeks? If we knew that, why in the hell am I taking this course? I'm just gonna sit at my computer at home and make stock investments on Robinhood. But that ain't the real world. The real world is expectations. The real world is, I think I got to feel what's going on, but do I exactly know? The real world is gauging and interpreting events around you. And that's how you become a good manager. Understanding the world around you and interpreting it to your particular situation. Anybody have any questions on this portfolio? Notice, Chris, no crypto. Notice there's no ETF funds here, okay? No ETFs. No mutual funds. No options. No commodities. Just stock. We want to keep it fairly simple. There's a great investment class at Laverne where it gets into all these type of things. I used to teach it. I don't know why don't I teach it anymore? I don't know. But you can get into that stuff there. No questions? Let's move on. So this is the format in a spreadsheet that you need to attach to your discussion post in Blackboard. And let me go back to that right now, just so we know. And here it is right here. My computer's got like 800 applications going on now, so I apologize. So you post it to this file folder on Friday. Now, a lot of you have already posted your picks for your portfolio and the reasons why you picked them. But you can't give me the spreadsheet until the Friday close. So if you notice, if you looked at this file folder, you'll see some students have already posted, and here's my sample of the format that I would like you to do. Here's a little bio about myself. And then I've explained very briefly my stock selections. And then if once on Friday comes, I would upload and attach by doing this. You can just attach this to your portfolio. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for this week for your first graded work. It's going to be kind of fun to keep track of these. And when you see what we do to apply it to our discussions, it even be more valuable as we move forward in our class. Okay. I'm going to keep you for about another half hour, okay? Another half hour. Hang on. Cheers. Nostrovia. Gatorade. All right. Let's go. All right, here we go. Let's talk turkey now. Here we go. Let's bring this up. Okay. Okay. We're managing our corporate financial management these days in a very trying time. The positives of these days is money is cheap, technology is abundant, workers are fairly cheap in price. Sorry, but they are. Costs are fairly low. The negatives are the future. Who's running the country? Is it some knucklehead in Mar-a-Lago, Florida? Or is it some knucklehead in Washington, D.C.? Who's running the business these days? Who's setting policy? That's a little scary these days in Congress and around the country. What's going on with the world affairs? What's going on with security issues, government relationships? And what's going on in the future of our investment market? Is everybody every day tells me the bubble is coming, the stock market's going to break. They've been telling me that for 3 years. It hasn't happened yet. Analysis and statistics tell us it's going to happen. But when? Should we keep buying stocks? Should we keep investing in corporate America? That's a big issue in managing these days. Corporate finance is important to management because the knowledge of capital budgeting, capital structure, working capital provides for effective decision-making if the corporation is to maximize profits and stay competitive for future success. You got to find the cash and you got to invest the cash into assets that are going to produce a return on your investments. And you got to price them in a competitive industry and a competitive market with competitors not only in the United States, but all around the world. In social situations that require you to have a lot of government regulations, a lot of rules. It's not easy. But the goal of finance is to maximize value of a company. There's 3 main principles in finance. The investment principle. And this is common sense. You want to invest in an asset that's going to create a return over your cost. That's the hurdle rate, the cost of capital. Right? I got an idea for a company. So I go to Wells Fargo Bank and they lend me $100,000. They say, Rick, we'll give you 5 years to pay back that $100,000. The interest rate is 6%. Okay. I take that $100,000 and start my business and invest it in my company. I produce a product, I produce services, I pay my expenses, and I generate profit. I generate a return on my investment. That return's got to be greater than 6% because I'm paying 6% to Wells Fargo. That's my hurdle rate. That's the goal, basically, of investment, to exceed the cost of the investment. The financing decision principle. What mixture of debt and equity are you going to use to fund your business? My wife tonight after our class this evening wants me to take her out to dinner. Damn. I have no cash on me. I have to make a financing decision, don't I? I got to use the American Express card because I don't leave home without it. I just made a financing decision. If I didn't have this credit card or credit and I didn't have any cash, we ain't going out to dinner. We're eating peanut butter sandwiches here at home. But because I have established credit, I can use credit to reach my financial decision. Now, on a much greater scale, this is how corporations work, right? Corporations has options on basically two types of debt. Interest-free debt, more normally called accounts payable, and interest-bearing debt, long-term debt, bank loans, mortgages, bond financing. The key there, it's long-term, but it's costing you additional money, not only to pay it back, but in interest. And then there's equity financing. Anybody ever watch the show Shark Tank? That's equity financing for private investment. Equity financing for public investment is issuing stock. Well, what mix of debt and equity are you going to have in your company? Each comes with specific costs, specific risks, not only to you as a company manager, but risk to the people who are lending you and giving you the money. That's a big topic of ours next week, risk and return. And then the final principle of finance is dividend decision. How do you return the capital back to your investors? That allows you to keep your job as a manager. Pay back your loans with interest. Pay dividends, stock splits, stock dividends, repurchase of stock to your equity investors. How you do that is very political. When Steve Jobs ran Apple Computer for many years, are you guys old, young enough or old enough to know Steve Jobs? Yeah, you probably are. He didn't want to pay dividends. You buy stock in Apple, Steve Jobs said, "The hell with you. I'm not paying you a dividend. If you don't like it, don't buy our stock." Why? Because he took all the money that he had and reinvested it back into the company. He didn't want to pay shareholders dividends. He wanted to take those dollars and create new products. But then Steve Jobs died, and a new sheriff came in town. What's his name? I can't remember. I should know that. I've been with Apple for years. But when Steve Jobs died, the investors, the stockholders said, "Okay, now you're going to pay us a dividend." And Apple had to start paying dividends, or they were going to lose those investors. But with Steve Jobs, nobody said, "No, Steve, we don't want to get you mad at us. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep making those great products. Do what you have to do." But when Steve died, now they wanted their dividends. Those are the three main principles of finance. And they all go towards the uses. A key concept in finance of our type of study is called free cash flows. Free cash flow is the amount of cash a company has after they determined and fulfilled the needs of the operations of the company. Cash that they have left over to pay interest on debt. Cash that they have left over to pay principal, dividends, buy back stocks, and invest in new assets and growth. Remember, the operations of a company are revenues minus expenses, the purchase of working capital, short-term assets and liabilities, and the purchase of long-term capital, replenishing your assets. How much cash is left over after all those happen? That's free cash flow. That's a key statistic, a key number in determining the value of a corporation. We'll talk more about that next week. You guys probably have seen this before. Whack. We generate free cash flow. What is it costing us to generate that cash flow? The cost of equity and the cost of debt after tax. This is where that capital structure mix plays into it. How much of our company is financed by equity? How much of our company is financed by debt? Put that all together, it's our cost of money. It's our hurdle rate. You buy a car, you get financing. The credit manager at the car dealership says, Mr. Hasse, you're going to get credit. You can buy this car at an interest rate of 4.5%. That's my cost of capital. I go to the bank and borrow money on a mortgage. Mr. Hasse, your mortgage is at 3.5%. That's my cost of capital. For corporations, it's a combination of those factors to determine the average cost of capital for a business. I'm going to have you in your portfolios down the road select one company from your portfolio, and you're going to tell me what their cost of capital is. That'll be a good analytical tool for you. Here's a key thing. Financial indicators. I'm going to, oh, hang on just a sec. Let me just, I got a little, hang on here just for a minute. I got a little held up here. My computer just did a little bit of freeze job on me, so hang on for a minute. Here we go. I got too many files open, so it froze on me a little bit. So let's backtrack here. And do this. There we go. Oh, sorry guys, one moment. Well, it's good to find out this problem right off the bat before I get into this, so bear with me. There we go. Okay, now we're set. Okay, there we go. Sorry guys, we got it fixed. One of the key topics after our principles, and this is what chapter 4 is about in our text. By the way, as I said earlier, our text is the 16th edition of Financial Management. It's optional to have in this class. So I have provided PowerPoints and information from the text to help you where you don't need the text. It's just the key points of this. And remember, this week is a review week, so I assume all of you know this kind of stuff, but I'm going to go over it very quickly. Chapter 4 is about the time value of money, the present value, the future value, the rate of return, the amount of money valued today or in a specific time period, the cash flow into the future. What's the present value of cash flow in the future discounted to today, the present value? What's the cash flow in the future determined by the future value, earning an interest or earning a return over that period of time. Understanding these concepts is important to finance. You've taken other courses where you've probably studied these, but to understand the concept of the present value or the future value of money is very important. Why? Because it determines our value of our business. Free cash flow, as I said earlier, is at the top part of this chart, is the net operating profit minus the required investments in operating capital. Short-term operating capital, called working capital, and long-term operating capital. They'll create the purchase of long-term plant and equipment. The difference creates free cash flow. Am I producing enough operating profits to fulfill the obligations of my working capital and my capital needs, and whatever's left over is called free cash flow? And if I take that free cash flow and determine it out into the future and discount it at my cost of money, I can determine the value of my company. Welcome to Warren Buffett 101. This is how he values companies. He hires University of Laverne MBAs to go out and project what the free cash flow going out in the future of certain operations. He determines their cost of capital, and he can determine their what is called intrinsic value. What are they really worth in the market with the cash flow that they're generating discounted at their cost of money to generate that cash flow? And what is the cost of money? It's the cost of debt and the cost of equity. Determined by the market, determined by the risk. What do I mean by risk? A company with a AA credit rating is going to have a lot cheaper money than a company with a BB credit rating. It's like, you guys know this. If your FICO score is 810, you're going to pay cheaper interest than if your FICO score was 610, right? Because your risk is different. That's called risk aversion. The mix of debt and equity and the firm's business risk. One of the reasons why General Electric has had such a difficult time over the last couple of years, going back 10, 15 years, is because their company has a lot of business risk. General Electric for many years built nuclear reactors. You don't see too many nuclear reactors being built these days. General Electric for many years had high fixed operating costs. Their business risk was difficult and hard to measure. People stayed away from it. They didn't want to give them any capital. General Electric got into a pickle. They're now selling off parts of their business to generate capital to keep that business going. So the cost of capital and the free cash flow are used for us to determine valuation. And we're going to take a look at this a lot over the course of our class. There's the free cash flow formula, which you just saw, the weighted average cost of capital. One of the ways of getting financing, as I said earlier, is going and borrowing money long-term in the public markets. That's a bond. This is what Chapter 5 is all about. You guys all know the key features of a bond. A bond is issued in $1,000 lots. It has a maturity date. The credit risk of that company establishes the coupon rate in the market, what interest you pay. One of the great things about companies issuing bonds is they know exactly what their commitments are for as long as the bond is due. You know what your interest payments will be. You know what your maturity value or your maturity price has to be. You know that. You can manage that in your cash flow. That's why most corporations borrow money instead of issuing equity. Why? Equity is unknown. We don't know how many dividends we're going to pay over the next few years. We don't know what our returns are going to be in our company because of the market and the industry we're in. Debt financing establishes consistency. You got to watch out for debt financing, though, because it also reduces its fixed costs. Interest is a fixed cost. You got to pay it no matter what. You can't go in default. So bond financing is very key to corporate financing. There's a default risk in debt. What do you do if you can't pay your car loan? They take your car away. What do you do if you can't pay your mortgage? They take your house away. What does a company do if they go in default on a debt? They have to declare bankruptcy. They have to sell off assets to fund that requirement. So you don't want to get in a habit of defaulting on debt. But debt is cheap money. Debt is very cheap. So companies like to take advantage of that. Key definitions of bond financing: current yield, capital gains yield, yield to maturity. Again, I'm not going to test you on any of this stuff. This is just background to what we're going to be talking about in our case studies and in our examples, but I'm not going to ask you to do these calculations. I just want you to refamiliarize yourself with these definitions. As I said, there's two forms of bankruptcy for corporations. For individuals, it's a little bit different, but somewhat similar. Chapter 11 bankruptcy is reorganization, a second chance. General Motors is a great example of that. Chapter 7 is liquidation. Blockbuster Video is one of those examples. You liquidate the company to pay out your obligations. Reorganization is a timeout to reorganize your company so the investors, for the creditors, can say, okay, we'll buy that. You're back in business. Now pay off your debt. Companies usually want Chapter 11. They want to keep in business. They want to keep getting their paychecks. Creditors sometimes prefer Chapter 11 because they get paid. Chapter 11 is an interesting organization or interesting thing because you get a timeout. You don't have to pay your debts for usually around 4 months. You get a time to reorganize the business. The bank appoints a trustee to supervise this organization, and management keeps operating the company. But usually as a form of reorganization, management will change because it was management that got him into this pickle. So now they got to get out, or some of them are going to get out, and they reorganize. If they do not do a good plan of reorganization, the bankruptcy judge, now there's bankruptcy courts in Riverside, downtown Los Angeles, San Diego, and this is where you file if you're a company, and the judge will determine whether you can reorganize. The trustee will help you reorganize, and if you can't do it, Chapter 7 comes in and you liquidate. But you don't want to get that far. But a lot of companies, matter of fact, our former president has been bankrupt 4 times. And he ended up being president of the United States. So it's a second chance. Who gets paid when you liquidate? This is the pecking order. Notice what's first: property taxes. Notice what's last: common stock. There's usually nothing left by that time. I have been involved in bankruptcy situations a lot in my lifetime with investments that I've made or people who owe me money. And trust me, when it gets down to unsecured creditors, which is basically the definition of accounts payable, there's nothing left. So if you can reorganize, the better. But if you have secured holdings, if you've lent the company money and the collateral is used by the assets are used as collateral, you get paid and you get all that money back in liquidation. Sometimes payrolls are met, sometimes local or state taxes are met, but it depends on the value of the assets in the market. Okay. After bond financing, long-term debt, there's common and preferred stock. And I'm sure many of you know about these already. Common stock is a part of the equity position of a company. The value of stock is the expected cash flow or dividend payments over time, with the discount rate determined by the required rate of return on that investment. That's what RS is. And you can determine the present value of a common stock in the market. Is my stock really worth $20 a share today? What's its true value with the generated cash flows? Remember, one of the key components of our financial system managed by the Security and Exchange Commission is that every quarter, every public corporation has to tell the world what they plan on doing financially in the next 12 months. That information is relayed to determining the current value of the company, how consistent they are in predicting their results for the next 12 months. That's what drives the markets. One of the good things about our class this summer is you're going to be owning your portfolio at the end of the second quarter, June 30th. That means you'll be able to see how the company and the stock price changes when they start giving out their financial results for this second quarter in mid-July. That's going to affect your stock price. We're going to see how that works come then. Common stock is ownership in the company. You elect the directors, the board of directors. The directors hire management. No guaranteed dividends in common stock. Hopefully you'll get some dividends, but it's not guaranteed. But you have a vote and a say in the management of the company. The more stock you own, the greater say you have. That's why if some of you are in pension funds or 401k managed by professional managers, those managers have a lot of power within companies because they control a lot of the stock of those businesses. They have a big say in what goes on in those management of those organizations because they control stock holdings. That's a key part of investing. One of the keys of determining and valuing common stock is what's the cash flow going to be generated by the business. One of the key concepts is the dividend growth model. Some of you might have already studied this in earlier finance classes. Taking the dividend that's going to be paid over time and dividing it by the expected return minus the growth rate. We'll see that in just a minute. These are valuation models. Again, I'm not going to ask you in this class to value stock. I'm not going to ask you to determine a free cash flow model. But these are key definitions of determining valuation of companies. We've gone over free cash flow and weighted average. Again, the value of a company is determined by how much cash flow they're generating for the investors divided or discounted by the cost of their money. Give you a quick example. Let's say my company is generating $100,000 of free cash flow this year. My cost of capital is 10%. What's the value of my company? 100,000 divided by or discounted at 10%, $1 million. 100,000 is 10% of $1 million. My company is valued at $1 million. But let's say I get cheaper money and my $100,000 free cash flow is a cost of capital of 5%. What's the value of my company? 100,000 divided by 5%, $2 million. Excuse me, is it 2 million? Let me do that. I'm a little bit fuzzy tonight. 1 million. $20 million. Cheaper money, more valuable to company. At a cost of capital of 5%, it's $20 million. At a cost of capital of 10%, it's $1 million. See why companies are doing well these days? Money is cheap. They're more valuable. A key component to what's going on in the world right now. Why our stock prices keep going up? because companies have cheap money and their operations are valuable. That's why people are beginning to freak out with inflation. If inflation starts going up, those asset values are going to go down. Any reasonable politician now is not going to let that happen. Another way of determining, as I said earlier, is the constant dividend growth model, taking your projected dividends over the course of the year and dividing it by your expected return minus the growth rate of the company. Some of you have seen this before. What is expected return of a company? It's the capital asset pricing model. The risk-free interest rate plus the market premium, the difference between the market rate of return and the risk-free rate, times the beta or the risk of your particular company. If I decide to invest in this company today with a risk-free rate of 7%, a market premium of 5%, in a beta of 1.2, and we'll talk about beta next week, I expect 13% return a year on this company. The greater the beta, the greater the risk, the more return. The lower the beta, the lower the return. Risk-free rate is that 10-year United States Treasury. What is the Treasury yield today is at 1.6%. It's not 7. The market return rate today is about 8.5%. We'll be looking at this in context of our portfolio companies down the road. Let me go through this. We don't need, I'll scare you with that stuff. Let's look at preferred stock. Preferred stock is a weird stock. It's called a hybrid security. Why? Preferred stock is a guaranteed dividend. You know exactly what dividend you're going to be receiving when you buy the stock. Oh, I'm going to buy a Ford Motor Company $2.50 preferred stock. And the price is $27 a share. That means if I pay $27 a share, I'm going to get a dividend of $2.50 every year. Wow, that's not a bad deal. But a couple drawbacks to that. Technically or financially, that price of that stock is not going to go up very much. The reason why people buy preferred stock is for the dividend, not for the stock to grow. So there's no buying and selling of the stock. You're going to get the dividend and that's about it. But still, it's not bad. And also, you have no say in the operations of the company. No vote, no proxy vote, no vote in the board of selection of the board. But you get a guaranteed dividend. Preferred stock is a hybrid security because it's between a bond and a common stock. A bond has guaranteed coupon payments, but it has a maturity date. There's no maturity date in preferred stocks. You can sell it whenever you want to. But it's not a common stock where you have no designated dividend. You get a designated dividend in preferred stock. That's why a lot of companies shy away from preferred stock. Why? Cash flow. You got to pay it out. Dividends. Most of the companies that issue preferred stocks are regulated companies. What's a regulated company? Southern California Edison. What's a regulated company? The gas company. What's a regulated company? Department of Water and Power. Electricity, natural gas, water. Everybody has to have those services. Not everybody has to have an Apple computer. Not everybody has to drive a Ford automobile. So those industries are not regulated into what type of charges they can charge their customers. They can do whatever they want as long as there's a market for those products. But electricity, natural gas, water, everybody is entitled to those services. So they're regulated so everybody can afford them. So because of that, their profit margins are stretched. So they build the preferred stock dividend into their rate increases so they can afford to make their profits, so they can afford to pay the dividends, the preferred stock dividends, so they can afford to provide their services to all people. That's why we regulate those type of industries. Preferred stock. Now, here we go. I'm running a little late, but we're almost done. I do a couple things every morning, even though I no longer have to get up at 5 a.m. to go watch the market and manage people. God, I used to hate that, managing people. Ugh, I don't miss that one bit. Brr. But be that as it may, I don't have to get up anymore to go to work, but I get up every morning at early. I still get up at 5:30, and I make my wife her coffee. I go get the newspapers, and I turn on the business channel, and I look for these 9 indicators every morning because I'm still an investor. I sit on a couple of boards of companies. No, don't think that's a big deal. It's not. These are dinky little companies, so don't anyway get all excited about that. And I'm a teacher. I need to keep abreast of the world around us. If you're going to be a good manager, in whatever shape or form you will be as a manager, you need to know what's going on in the world around us. These 9 indicators is a place to start. The 3 equity indexes, the Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. The credit markets, indicated by the 10-year United States Treasury yield. This is 2019. This is 2020. This is this week. Look how that Treasury yield has changed. Interest rates are going up. It's got people a little bit spooked. Is inflation on the horizon? Ooh. If you can predict that, you'll be making a lot of money. That's the risk. It's called the risk-free interest rate. If I lend $1,000 to the United States government tomorrow, they pay me that $1,000 back in 10 years, and they'll give me a coupon payment of $15.70 every year for those 10 years. Wow. But that's what that means. Last year in December, if I would have gave $1,000 to the United States government, I only would get $9.17. Cost of money has increased for a variety of factors. But that's the risk-free interest rate because that rate sets the basis for prime interest rates, the best rates that companies can borrow money from a bank at. That rate sets the rates of our credit card rates, our auto loan rates, our mortgage rates, all consumer lending, that rate. That rate goes up, your car loans are going to go up. That rate goes down, your mortgage payments are going to go down. That's the prime lend. That's the key credit rate in our economy, the 10-year United States Treasury yield. The key 2 biggest commodity indexes or rates, crude oil and gold. Oil prices were down last year, $48 in December. They're beginning to go up. Why? Because the oil companies aren't stupid. They're cutting back on production, making it the demand, the supply drops, less demand goes up, prices go up. Bought any gasoline lately? How about that one? Oil companies have cut back production, thus the demand increases over the supply, the prices go up. That's what's happening now. But our dependence on oil is dropping because of the efficiencies in technology and our world now. But it's still a major commodity that we need to watch. Gold. Gold is called a hedge. You think the markets are going to tank, you buy gold. You think interest rates are going to go up, you buy gold. You think currency values are changing, you buy gold. It's a hedge. Usually when those go down, gold goes up. I own gold because I'm an old gangster. It's risk-free. I own gold in an ETF fund. It's a good investment, especially as you get older. I wouldn't risk it now if you're young. Keep investing in other things. But gold is a good investment as you get older. It's a hedge. You don't have to worry about it. Then the 3 major currencies of the world, the euro, the Chinese yuan, and the Japanese yen. The United States dollar has maintained its strength over the pandemic. It's still pretty valuable compared to the other currencies. Changing a little bit, but still pretty valuable. But these currencies set the prices of how you do business around the world. You have a company that has a plant in England, you have to convert your dollars to euros to run that plant. Well, not anymore. They just went off out of the euros. They're going to pounds again. You have a plant in Germany. You have to convert your dollars to euros, and then you convert euros into dollars when they come back. You have a plant in Mexico, pesos. You have a plant in China, wons. You have to understand the currency value in order to do business. It's very important. Why? Because just like stocks, bonds, you have to have cash flow. And the strength of the dollar, of the American dollar, drives this. There's a lot of competition in the world, but everybody wants American dollars. Why? America still has the largest economy in the world. America, this is debatable these days, has the safest democracy in the world. America has the largest military in the world and is the world's policeman. That's why one of the reasons why our dollar is strong. We protect everybody else's money. And also, and even more important, the culture of America around the world keeps our dollar strong. And trust me, I've been in a lot of weird places in the world. And you can be anywhere in the world and say, hey, where's the local McDonald's? Hey, anybody like Taylor Swift? Hey, anybody seen the latest Schwarzenegger movie? I'll be back. Everybody knows American culture. You get off a plane in Moscow, there's people outside the airport trying to sell you products and services so they can get American dollars. You're in Beijing at a market, and they love it when you whip out the American dollars and pay in American dollars. They could care less about their Chinese currency. They want American dollars. Anybody ever vacation in Mexico? American dollars come in kind of handy down there. Even in Canada these days, the American dollar. And as a financial manager these days, these are very important things to remember. Because we have competitors all around the world. And those competitors make our prices expensive or in demand or tough to sell. You as financial managers in the future have to deal with this and manage your company's financial capital in these types of environments. In the equity markets, in the bond markets, in the commodity markets, in the currency markets, in the markets of other countries. It's a lot more complicated now than when I was starting out. You got your hands full. But the key thing is to find cheap money and efficiency, either in the workforce or in your products or in your management. Cheap capital and efficiency. Welcome to Amazon. Welcome to Apple. Welcome to Microsoft. Welcome to the leading companies around the world. They have access to cheap capital, and they have efficient distribution, efficient management, efficient operations. They're the success stories. If you're going to start a business, that's what you should concentrate on. Find cheap money and efficiency the hell out of your group. You do that, you'll be successful. Don't hire a lot of people. Wear a lot of hats. Then when you get bigger, hire the people. Don't start your business if money's going to cost you 20%. Start a business when your money is going to cost you 5%. And many times it's going to be your own money. These are the things you have to be aware of. And these are the things we're going to develop and concentrate on over the course of our class. So we're off and running. This week, mainly all I want you to do is get used to working in Blackboard, do that discussion post. Next week, we're going to be looking at some problems, not for a grade, but some review problems. I want to show you some things in Blackboard that I've posted that you should be aware of. If you go to week 1, here's the PowerPoint for this PowerPoint that I just did, if you want to look at that. And here's some review problems. I know a lot of you don't have a textbook,
You
so
don't see your screen, Professor.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm getting a little punchy. It's getting late. There we go. Thank you. Here's week number 1. Here's the PowerPoint that I just did. You can download that. And here is some review problems. Again, not for a grade. I've downloaded it into a PDF file, some problems from our text. If you want to look those over, please feel free. I'm going to post the solutions to that file folder at the end of this week on Friday or Saturday. Again, they're not for a grade. They're just review. If it's been a while since you've done any present value calculations, maybe try doing those, and I give you the solutions. If it's been a while since you know what a bond or a stock is, look at those problems. If you're comfortable with that, don't worry with them. Don't bother with them. But I've provided that so you can do some internal review. You do not have to turn any of this in. Our grades are case studies and discussion posts and 1 paper. That's our grading. No homework review problems. That's for you to determine, not for a grade. I will post the video of this class to our Zoom link file folder probably tomorrow morning after I get back from golf. Friday's golf day. Sorry. And then you can have a hard copy or a video of our lecture this evening.
Yeah, isn't tomorrow Thursday?
Tomorrow is Thursday. I'm playing golf tomorrow, Thursday. I usually play golf on Friday, but Friday I have to teach a class on campus, so I'm playing golf tomorrow. Thank you. Too much Gatorade. Okay. Sam, smile. It's not that bad. There you go. Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any last minute questions? So at the end of the week, I'm going to post a little schedule for you to fill out and pick a date and a time when you can talk to me about the course and about any issues you have with me. Better not have any or anything. I'm looking forward to working with you all. I think you'll get a lot out of this class. I'm a little goofy. I'm a little different, but it makes this a little bit more rewarding. And you're going to learn a lot in here. And hopefully become better managers, investors, supervisors, leaders coming out of this. So I welcome you all. Thank you. Mr. Usher, it's good to see you. Now that you got the lights on, I can see you a little bit better. And I want to, anybody else have anything? If not, get the hell out of here. I'll see you next week. Adios, everybody.
Thank you.
And Brian, next week, not in a car, Brian, really. You're taking your MBA class in a car? Really, Brian?
I'll explain that. I'll explain that later.
You don't have to explain me anything, but really, I don't have your camera. I don't want to know you're in a car. I feel like a stalker or something having you in a car. Good Lord. I don't want, I don't want to do that. That's awful. So I apologize, Brian, if you got to take this class in a car. You all right?
I'm good. I'm parked outside the Burbank campus, actually. I had to drive somewhere to get reception.
All right, there's a good bar around the corner. Could you go in there and pick me up? No, forget it. All right, guys.
How come you're right outside the school? I mean,
yeah, Brian, what's the deal? Why outside Burbank? What's going on over there?
Well, for some odd reason, the Verizon cell towers in downtown Glendale aren't working and haven't been for about 6 weeks. And even with a high-end hotspot, I can't get any data. So I just drive a couple miles down the road and park here.
You don't have a house or apartment to live in? You can get this?
Oh, I do, but I won't be home in time to log in for class.
I see. Okay. And I'm just busting you, Brian.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. What kind of car do you got? Tell us what type of wheels you got. Let's hear about this.
It's a really fancy 2013 Chevy Volt.
Ooh, dynamic. You'll get a lot of chicks with that car, I'll tell you.
Well, I tell you what, I don't make a lot of trips to the gas station, so
That's
the
true.
trade-off.
You got a good point there. Okay. All right, Brian. Thanks for doing that. Okay, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks, Professor. Have a great night.
If you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I'll see you all next week. Adios.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you.